Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I welcome you to THEOSOPHIA, Esoteric Studies. We're very privileged and very honored to have with us Lynn Miceli from Edgar Cayce's Association for Research and Enlightenment. Greetings, Lynn. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm looking forward to your podcast today.
So are we.
I'll be here in case you need me.
Okay, great. And also we have with us Lin Hunter, who I'm going to be interviewing today. Lynne is a psychic and medium, and she is the teacher of a course in psychic skills, which is primarily what we're going to talk about today. But I just wanted to backtrack a little bit because, just for a moment, because not everybody knows who Edgar Cayce is. Edgar Cayce was an American mystic and psychic who lived from 1877 to 1945. And he gave over 14,000 psychic readings that were taken down by a stenographer. Now they're all on computer, actually. And they dealt with a very large range of topics: health, reincarnation, Atlantis, Egypt, other ancient cultures, spiritual growth, meditation, dreams, even inventions. He gave readings for a number of inventors. So the Association for Research and Enlightenment is the organization that's based on Edgar Cayce's work, and we usually call it the ARE. So getting into our topic today, here are some questions that Lynn wrote. We're both named Lynn. She's Lynn with an I and I'm Lynn with a Y. That Lin Hunter wrote as part of the description of her psychic skills course. Do you wonder if psychic skills are special gifts granted to a chosen few, or if they are inherent in our human spirit essence, waiting to be awakened? Do you feel that you have psychic ability, but don't really know what to do with it? Are you already using your psychic ability, but you want to take your readings to the next level? Does the thought of being psychic make you feel different? Are you interested in finding out about why and how psychic skills work? So we're going to come back to those questions. And we're going to start with Lynn, kind of going to the beginning. Lin Hunter, how did you know you were psychic? Is that something that started early in life, or how did that happen?
Well, my first experience was when I was around 5 years old. I was 5 years old, actually, and attended my grandmother's funeral, and everyone was crying. And I said to my sister, "Why is everybody crying?" And she said, "Well, don't be silly. Grandma died." And I was a little bit surprised by that, because I could see my grandmother standing there next to a statue of herself that was in a box. And so I asked my sister if she could pinch me so I could cry too. And that was my first experience that I remember. But on and off, through my childhood, I would ask my mother to buy me different things like gypsy witch cards, and I was learning how to dowse with a willow fork when I was a child. And just, I was naturally interested in all of these things. For Christmas, I asked for a nun doll. I always had this inner urge to know more about these things.
And as an adult or later in life, how did you move into making psychic work your career?
Well, as I said, on and off, I mean, it continued through my childhood. When I was 16, I made my own deck of tarot cards. But, life happens, so you put these things aside and you get involved in life, and they keep popping back up. And, I think if spirit is knocking at your door, eventually you have to listen. And one day, I was I had taken my mother grocery shopping, and my daughter was in the car and fell asleep. So I waited in the car for my mother. And as I was sitting there and waiting, I kind of just glanced across the street to this park. And in my internal vision, I could see this young Black woman hanging over the fence, dead. And so I didn't think, I didn't know what it was. But about a week later, in the newspaper was the picture of this young girl who had been murdered and left hanging over the fence in that particular park. And so I started to get more involved in developing my psychic skills, and had, began later taking a lot of different classes. I attended the Arthur Findlay College in England for mediumship studies and some psychic work, and also many, courses here in the US. And eventually in 2007, opened my own school, which started out as a Fox Center and ended up being the School for Psychic Studies.
It started out as a what center?
The Fox Center. I'm a spiritualist, and the Fox sisters are three sisters that started spiritualism. Started the phenomena of spiritual communication or spirit communication back in the 1850s, and so that's what I originally named my center, the Fox Center, after the Fox sisters, but then changed it to the School for Psychic Studies.
So Lynn is a psychic. She's a medium. She sometimes works with law enforcement and with families as a psychic investigator, helping to solve crimes and find missing people. And she founded the School for Psychic Studies in Western Massachusetts. And now she's teaching the Psychic Skills course. It's a certification course for ARE of New York, and she's been doing that since 2017. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the course, or a lot about the course then?
Yeah, I will. The course is actually called Psychic Skills Certification Program, and it's the first certification program that was offered by the Casey Center. So the program is a year-long program, and the class meets once a month for 1 weekend per month, and it meets on Saturdays from 10 to 5 and Sundays from 10 to 3. And each month we cover a different aspect of psychic work. And so we start at the very beginning with energy and vibration. And then each weekend we add a new topic, and we build on what we learned the weekend or the month before. So the first example would be, the first weekend 1, we cover psychic essentials and basic energy work. And then weekend 2, we move on to the basic abilities of ESP, which is also known as these days more prevalently as psychic. And in there, we talk about our soul senses, which would be the clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. So for every physical sense we have, we also have a soul sense. So for our hearing, for example, in the physical world, we have our soul sense of clairaudience, and that is a skill of hearing things that other people do not hear. So that's one aspect of ESP. And then we have telepathy, which would be communication from mind to mind. And then we also talk about precognition and retrocognition, and that is the ability to know things before they happen or to know things that happened in the past. And then we also work a little bit on that weekend with telekinesis, which is the ability to use your mind to move objects or influence objects. So that's weekend number 2, called the basic abilities of ESP. And then weekend 3, we move on to the psychic reading. And in that weekend, we talk about developing a strong psychic connection with your client that you're doing your reading for, structuring your reading, how to give your reading some structure, how to stay in control of your reading. That's an important aspect of doing a reading. And we talk about different devices for learning points in time, like if something will happen in, how many months, how many years, and things like that. Then in weekend 4, we move on to divination, part 1. And this is one of the most fun weekends. People love it because we start using some tools in our psychic work. We learn to read symbols, real symbols, abstract symbols. We learn how our subconscious mind delivers information to us through symbols. And we start working with different things like scrying, flame reading, different divination tools.
Could you explain scrying? Because not everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, scrying is when you you can use a dark mirror, a jet mirror, a big flat piece of dark stone. You can use a bowl of water. You can actually use a dark computer screen. But it is the skill of just gazing into something and allowing your third eye to give you visions. And those visions could be precognizant. In other words, you could know something coming in the future, you could know something in the past, or you could just get an answer to a question that you're asking.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Okay. So moving on to weekend 5, we cover psychometry. This is another fun weekend. Psychometry is a skill of reading through touch. So there are 3 different kinds of psychometry. There is person psychometry, and that's what we really do in a psychic reading, where we touch our energy field to another person's energy field, and we allow information to come through. And then we have object psychometry, and that could be done by just holding an object that belonged to a person and reading the energy of that object. And so the word psychometry actually comes from Greek, psyche, which is the word for soul, and metron, which is the word for measure. So we're talking about soul measure. So we are able, when we do psychometry, say, for example, if we had an object, we could read the past owners and the current owners. So if it was something that was handed down over generations, you might get information about several different people who own that object. The strongest, of course, would be the person who owned it currently. So in that weekend, students receive different objects that I send out, and they practice reading those objects. And the third type of psychometry that we work with is location psychometry. And that's the ability to stand in a location and get information about things that might have happened there. And that in itself is an important part of psychic investigation work, to be able to stand in a location or handle an object that was involved in some type of a crime, and to get information. And so that is weekend 5. And then weekend 6 is raising vibrations. And so we start to move into a higher vibration in weekend 6. And we talk about spirit communication, working with guides. We also do a little bit with inspirational writing, inspirational speaking. And so we're again building on everything we have learned before, in particular our soul senses, these clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and we're taking that from a physical level and we're raising our vibration up to work on a spirit level. So we're talking about communicating with loved ones and friends who have crossed to the other side, working with spirit guides, getting inspiration from teachers in spirit. And so that is our Raising Vibrations weekend of weekend 6. Weekend 7, we work with dreams. And we learn how to plant the seed for a dream, how to remember the dreams, and then how to decode those dreams and find out, discover what your dreams mean for yourself or for other people. And that's another fun weekend. Actually, they're all fun. After working with dreams, we go into divination level 2. And on that weekend, we learn numerology. We might delve deeper into some of the skills we learned in divination 1. And then we also cover a topic that students suggest, or some type of a divination tool that students want to learn about. And that could be something like palm reading or runes or something, whatever they choose to learn about.
It's nice that they have input on the curriculum, that the students help to create it.
Yeah, they get to choose something. In our December weekend, we have, of course, a break, and I did not mention, but also we have a summer break in July where students get a month off. You know, for July is a big vacation month. So we do have 2 weekends that we take a break, July and in December. And then in January, we jump back in again, weekend 9, psychic investigation. And that's what the course just covered this 2 weekends ago. And that is when we start to learn to use our skills, psychic skills, in a practical way, and to learn a little bit about working with law enforcement, how it's done, what you need to know before you start to approach law enforcement, different skills that you need to learn to work on crimes. And so we touch on, all of the basics of psychic investigation. But just know that something like psychic investigation or mediumship, those things, they really need more than 1 weekend study. So people who are interested in those go on to study further. Weekend 10, which would be in February, is the final weekend, and that is starting a practice, the ethics in the work, and each student starts to present a independent study project that they worked on during their December break. So in December, I assign an independent study project. So each student picks a topic. It could be something that we worked on in class and they want to know more about, or it could be something they're interested in that we did not cover in class, like a certain type of a reading tool. Or it could be something like gems or aromatherapy, whatever they're interested in. And they do a little 15-minute presentation on weekend 10, so that the students can learn a little bit about each other's projects. And then we end up with a little mini psychic fair within our own class, where students can do readings with the topic that they pick to do their independent study on. And then the final 2 months would be preparation for testing for certification. And the final month would be the testing.
And can you say a little bit about how the testing is done?
Yes, so the students work with me for the month prior to testing. And during that period, I work individually with each student that wants to test on their reading style, their reading pattern, how they're going to do the reading, what tools they'll use. And I give them tips and have them work with 3 different clients that I associate, pair them with, I'm sorry. And they practice the readings with these 3 clients. And then they prepare for the testing. And the testing involves working with 3 different clients that the ARE provides. And they do 3 test readings.
So these are usually people they haven't met before. They're people
Right,
that are new to
right.
them.
So
Yeah.
the ARE will provide them with 3 clients, and they could be from anywhere. We've had clients come in from different countries for the test reading.
And is there any previous experience necessary to take this course, or what
No.
level?
The course is open to all levels, and it's really wonderful how it works out, because in this particular session that's just winding up now, we've had something from very experienced students who have worked with Ingo Swann personally. Ingo Swann is one of the people that was involved in developing the remote viewing program for the government. And so we've had someone as experienced as that to someone who has never done anything with psychic work before. And it all works beautifully because you get paired with different people every weekend, I'm sorry, that we meet. And you learn from other people, and even the experienced people learn from people who are unexperienced. And maybe Leo would like to speak a little bit about that experience in the class.
We now have with us Leo Weinberger, who is one of the graduates of Lynn's course. And Leo, so would you like to share something about your experience as a student and as a graduate?
Look, this is one of the greatest things anybody can do. What Lynn is doing is she's teaching about something which we all need to get to. I'll just say, this is the next level of human consciousness that Lynn is teaching. And I'm so indebted, because now I do this every day practically, although it's not my primary line of work. But anyway, it was a great, fun experience, arduous, because it's a survey course that covers a wide range, starting with the more simple, leading to the more complex. So there's quite a bit of work involved, but it is a year. It's a year out of your life. But you won't be the same at the end, I'll tell you that, because if you learn from Lynn how to do all these things, you're going to realize that there's way more to existence than you ever dreamed. The world is not quite onto this yet, but so Lynn is way ahead of her time. I'll say that. So you're a different person at the end. There's no question about it, because you're exposed to a level of consciousness that and have developed your own ability to delve into that level of consciousness. You suddenly question everything around you. You realize that what we see and hear, or whatever our senses take in around us, is only a small fraction of what exists in this universe. And how else to encapsulize it? Now, yeah. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know that you have mentioned that at times you use this in, in your work.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, because you change as a person completely. So I'm a lawyer day to day still. I can't seem to shake it off. I'm trying. I'm trying, but I like doing it a lot, and I've been doing it for like 4 decades. So it's a little difficult to shake off. Anyway, but so everything I do in it is affected by my new level of consciousness. I mean, every day I'm what we call sitting in the power of the universe, at least 45 minutes a day, kind of, at least. And so already I am pulling myself away from normal kind of everyday life. So when I'm dealing with my legal work, I'm doing a psychic reading, whether I know it or not, of who I'm dealing with, whether it's a client or an adversary or whoever. And also I assess the whole problem that's been presented to me in a whole different, much higher level, I'll call it. So that I'm able, I think the way it works is I'm able to reach a resolution much more quickly, because I can suss out the cast of characters involved and what they're really interested in, and what's possible and what they're really interested in, and bring that together. That's roughly the way it works. And at every step of the way, every day this goes on, as things change and evolve. So yes, I'm doing a psychic reading of everybody involved, of the whole situation. So I'll know if somebody, my adversary is just not going to budge, or how they might budge, or where is the resolution here? Where is the possibility of resolution? Yeah, so I'm operating on a whole other level right now with whatever I do. I just, and that's what Lynn teaches. I don't think there's another course like this at all anywhere. I don't think, Lynn, but she's undertaken something rather unique in the world, I think, because I study also in London as well at the Arthur Findlay College, remotely, of course, as well as the Journey Within in New Jersey. And it doesn't get any better than that. They teach psychic phenomena, how to handle psychic phenomena in order to do mediumship. And everything that Lynn does is excellent preparation for that. Because Lynn breaks it all down. We start with T readings. We start with ESP. We start with the basics of the science, also of the supportive science of an explanation of what exactly we're doing, and why we're able to reach psychic.
Thank you, Leo. I'm going to stop you right there because you're touching on something I want to move into next. So that's a perfect segue.
Okay.
Thank you. And we may come back to you. So if you can stay a little longer, that would be great. So each weekend, the students, this is interesting because we started this course live in 2017. And so I would bring my own tools in and everybody would share the tools and we would do things like that. But in 2020, 2019, 2020 course, COVID hit. And so we had to go online. And that was a natural for me because this whole course is made up of different classes that I taught online for 10 years before I started teaching at the Casey Center. And so I had already been teaching online for quite a while. And it was just a matter of how to get this material and these tools to people so that they could do the same exercises that we were doing live when I brought my own tools. And so each weekend, I send out a packet to the students, and it could be an envelope like this, or it could be a box, depending on the weekend that we're working on. And within that package, the students receive handouts. So they have a divider for that particular weekend, and then they have many handouts. This is weekend 1, for example, and there are many different kinds of handouts that you get in weekend 1. I just want to find some exercise type things if I can here quickly. So you get things to do exercises with, different kinds of tools. And you might also get physical tools. So in weekend 1, for example, they will receive a set of divining rods. And these are actually, earlier I spoke about when I was a child, learning to use a willow fork to do divination. This is a takeoff on the willow fork, and these are copper divining rods. So each student receives in their package a set of these divining rods. And with each weekend, if there are tools necessary, they will receive the tools that they need to use in that particular weekend.
I guess getting those packets is kind of exciting for the students sometimes.
It is. It's one of the most exciting. It's become one of the most exciting parts of the weekend of the course. They're waiting to see what they're going to receive this month in their package. And at the end of the course, I'm sorry about this. You will have, this is actually a binder of all the handouts that you receive in this course. Now mine is a little thicker because I have those page dividers on it. But there are many, many handouts that the students receive. So at the end, you have literally a manual of everything that you learned over the course of the year. And you can refer back to these things. So if you forget something, or if you want to brush up on something, you have that manual that you can use.
And you
the
mentioned
tools that go along with it.
You mentioned that when they do psychometry, you actually send them objects. So you send them objects that you know something about the history of, and then they have to hold the object and divine the history.
Right. I ask friends of mine and relatives to give me items that I can send out. So, we can get some feedback from the person who owns the item. And then also I go to some type of a location and I get physical material from that location or building. And I send that in the package as well, so they can do a location reading from afar. Because for example, in something like psychic investigation, you may have to do the reading of a location and not be present there at the location. So if you learn that skill, it's something that you could use in psychic investigation. But it's also just a fun skill. A lot of people use psychometry in a psychic reading. They say, ask a person, do you have a watch or a ring that I can hold? And some people also use it to jumpstart, I'll say, a mediumship reading as well.
Leo touched on this, but how would you say your course is different from other psychic development courses?
Well, Leo did mention that I teach the science behind the skills, and that's the biggest thing that separates my course from other courses, because everybody thinks that you have to have some type of special gift to do a psychic reading, or you have to have some type of special skill. Well, we are all equipped as human beings with the ability to do psychic readings. It's built into our biology. And so for every weekend, I teach the science behind that particular skill. And once you know that this is something that's built into your body, it's not some special, skill that only a few are blessed with, then you're able to trust in the ability, and you're able to learn it more quickly, knowing that it's part of your physiology. Um, one example is white light. Now, practically everybody, uses white light in some form, and generally people use it for protection. Oh, I surround myself with white light before I do anything. But the fact is that white light has a very strong power. And there is really a scientific reason that white light works, that we learn through quantum physics. And so in this course, you learn the secrets of white light and the power that it has, and the different abilities that it brings for you. And so that is one example of how, I teach the science behind the skills.
I think you mentioned Tesla at some point in your course description. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, and that was just a quote that I put down on a weekend one. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so in weekend one, that's what we basically talk about: the energy, frequency, and vibration.
And how many students do you usually have in your course?
It could be anywhere from 12 to 20. It usually works out to be 16 or 18 students. Some weekends it's more, some years, I'm sorry, it's more, some it's less.
And the course meets on one weekend a month, but presumably there's a lot of work that's done in between those meetings.
Right. So in between, we might meet for a supplement to the weekend's material, which is prevalently what we did this year. We met a lot in between to go deeper into certain tools that we were working with in the course, or to listen to supplemental material that was related to what we learned. We might have a guest sitter that we meet with, so the students can practice their skills, or we might do a group reading exchange. And when we do that, we have students from 2017 all the way through 2022 that will meet and share readings together. So you get to practice with people from all different levels of experience. Or we might just meet and watch a video together. So in between, we do that. And I also assign homework. And the homework is something that you do at your own pace and as you are able. So what I'll do is I'll give some practice exercises to reinforce the material that we learned, or the skills that we learned on that particular month. I will also include links to articles, list books and videos that you can watch to add to the learning that we did on that particular month. And any supplemental handouts that I want to give, or that I might find, I add to that weekend's homework. So each month there's homework that you can do at your own pace to add to what we learned in our weekend meeting. And that weekend meeting is really a total immersion in psychic work. And that's what's so wonderful about this particular course. You know, some courses they meet once a week and then you go home and, you know, you come back. But in this particular weekend, you're spending 10 to 5 on Saturday, 10 to 3 on Sunday, and you're completely immersed in psychic work. And you're learning. I use PowerPoint presentations. I talk about certain topics, and then I pair people up in meeting rooms, which is the wonderful thing about going online, is that we can break out into individual reading rooms. And so you can go in with a partner in a private room and do your reading, which works out even better than in-person classes because you're all doing readings in the same room there. So those are things that might happen in between meetings.
The other thing about online courses, now when you were doing the courses in person in Manhattan, students either had to come from that area or they had to come to that area. Like you had some people who came down from New England, I think, to take your course. But
Right.
now you've had people, I think, from all over the country taking the course.
I do. I have people from California. I have people from Florida, Texas, Virginia, Pennsylvania. This year I have somebody from Idaho, Ohio, you know, so it's great because we have people from all over. Yeah, I even had one student coming in from the Dominican Republic at one point. She started in New York and then had to go home for COVID, and she was joining us from, you know, the Dominican Republic. So
That adds a nice layer of diversity to it,
it
And-
does. It does.
and also friendships that develop from that work that you
Right.
never have
And that is
had.
a big part of it. You know, you get to meet and work with and learn with like-minded people, and a bond forms there, and people stay connected during the course. Leo, do you want to just talk a little bit about friends that you made or connections that you made in the course?
Oh,
How that works
well,
out?
our year was in person. It was the 2017-2018 year, and we were all very, very close. Our relationships lasted for a few years, and continue. You know, yeah. I mean, look, what you're doing, remember, is each weekend. It's not just a learning experience for me. It wasn't, you know, it was certainly that, but you're evolving into, I know this sounds a little hokey, but you're evolving into a different person. You know, every time you're exposed, as Lynn brings it across, to some aspect of psychic behavior or skill, you just say, oh my goodness, I can do that too. You know, where human beings are possible, it's possible for human beings to do this also. You know, as you progress, you know, by the time you get to crime investigation or remote viewing, and you realize you can do that too, maybe not 100%, but very close, there are no limits. And so you're all, you know, you and your colleagues are like looking at each other like this, we're in a different world right now, you know, and we feel very privileged. So as if we know something that the rest of the world doesn't know yet, quite on a regular mass basis. So it brings the bond together. There's no question. I mean, I can contact anybody that was in my class at this point. And the fact that it is so different from regular day-to-day life on Earth these days bonds you together as well. And you need that. You know, you really, because you're in a different world, you're operating on a different energy level than the rest of the world. So need each other also. I'm realizing there's an interaction.
Yeah, really, on a mundane level, you learn how to just work with and tolerate many different types of personalities. You know, in the beginning, some people might say, oh, that person, you know, rubs me the wrong way, or maybe they're not the best for, that I want to be around. But then by the end of the class, you've learned about that person and you've come to understand that person and become friends with that person. And so it is a learning, a different type of learning going on in the undercurrent of the class.
You've touched on something a couple of times. You've talked about raising vibrations and you've talked about the white light. I have met people, and maybe many of us have, who think that psychic work is somehow dark and evil, or there's something very almost almost satanic about it. And yet you're talking about the white light of the divine.
Right.
Tell us about, I mean, there is a spiritual aspect to what you're doing, definitely.
There is. And as I said earlier, the word psychic comes from the Greek word psyche, which is the word for soul. And so you're doing soul work when you are doing psychic work. And many people don't look at it that way to begin with, but during the course, I believe you learn to get more in touch with your own soul, because I think, these days, many people are not in touch with their soul at all. It's just their physical being. This is who I am on a physical level. But there is a much deeper you that is connected to the divine. And we all are part of the divine. And so during the course of the psychic skills program, you learn to get in touch with that soul, and you learn to develop on a soul level as well as on a physical level. And so, when we're doing psychic work, we're really doing work soul to soul is how we do the readings. And so you learn about that. And they say, that in the world of mediumship, it is said that psychic skills are a stepping stone to mediumship. Well, mediumship is a matter of just jumping it up a notch to work with higher levels of soul. So whether you're working with guides or whether you're getting in touch with the God of your understanding, psychic skills are the basics for working on a higher level, on a higher soul level. And so in the beginning, we're working on our own vibration, our own frequency, our own soul. And then when we get into weekends like mediumship, we're moving up, learning to raise our vibration to reach spirit guides, loved ones who have crossed over, friends who have crossed over, inspirational guides to do inspirational speaking and writing. And so we're developing on a soul level, as well as learning about our physical abilities as a human being. What physical features do we have that enable us to do the psychic work?
And so your students probably come from every different religion and background.
They do. We have Muslims, we have Christians, we have Jewish people, we have everything you could possibly think of, all combined in one room. But the soul is a soul, and whatever the God or spirit of your understanding is on a higher level, your own higher power, that's what you work with.
And meditation is part of this process?
We do some meditation because meditation helps you to get in touch with your soul. And so I do encourage students to meditate, even in a simple way. And we do some of it in each weekend. I generally incorporate a little guided meditation or a little meditation segment, to get in touch with your own higher self.
So this is really a transformational process for people.
It is, and at when I first taught the first year, I knew that I was giving people a lot of information, because my own pet peeve is to take a course or a class and have people promise you this, that, and the other, and then at the end of it, you haven't learned any of that. So I make sure that in this course, you learn everything that I say I'm going to teach you. So I was surprised because I knew that I had given people a lot of information to digest, on a mental level. But when people talked at the end, gave their presentations at the end, and they still do this, talk about the healing that they received during the course, which was going on at a level that I wasn't even aware of. But at the end, it all came out. I think it was 5 different students that talked about how they had been healed by the course. And so God works in mysterious ways.
I remember that one of your students wrote a testimonial where she said that the course even helped her with her weight problem. And of course, I'm sure you don't promise that to anybody, but that was a kind of a side effect of her.
I didn't even mention weight or anything, but that was something, a side thing that did happen there. Yeah. And, people are transformed in many ways by the course. On the Edgar Casey website, we have a whole page, web page devoted to student testimonials. So if people are interested in seeing those types of things, they can go on and read many, many testimonials about how people were changed in many different ways.
I think we should mention that you have a free seminar coming up on February 8th. Do you want to?
I do. I have a free seminar on February 8th, which is open to anyone who's interested in learning about the course. You can just go to the Edgar Casey website and look up the Psychic Skills course, and there will be a link there where you can register for the free seminar, and you will receive an invitation to come. And during that seminar, I cover all of the topics that we learn during the course, and I also do a few exercises similar to those that you might do in the class. And so it's about an hour and a half long. And I also answer questions for anyone who is interested.
And they get a little bit more of an experience of your teaching style as well.
Right. So to learn more about the course, you can go to the Edgar Casey, is it an Edgar Casey NYC?
ARE of New York website.
ARE of New York, okay. But I think the URL is Edgar Casey NYC.
That's
if I'm not
correct.
mistaken. Yeah.
And I think we better spell that for people because some people have trouble with Casey. So it's EdgarCaseyNYC.org, and that's EdgarCaseyNYC.org. And there's a little sort of slideshow there, and you click on when the slide comes for the psychic skills, you click on that slide, and that'll take you into that page.
Right. Or you can go under events, I think it is, and it will say certification courses. And you can click on the course there, and you'll have links to all the different things, information about the course, a little overview. There is a wonderful video there that you can watch that I did with students from the 2020 course, talking about their experience in the course. And you can also register for the seminar there.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for sharing this with us. And thank you, Leo, for being part of this and sharing your experience. This has been really interesting. And I hope it's been enlightening for some folks who wondered how it's possible to teach or to learn psychic skills.
And thank you to all of you. This was a great, informative, and very enlightening show. I have a lot to contemplate and meditate upon, and I'm looking forward to your next conversation.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you, Hercules.
And thanks to everybody who tuned in, whether you watched us live, which one person did, or on YouTube later on today. Until next time, joyous journeys and amazing adventures. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.